Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a video for you about finding yourself in desperation and acquiring true self-knowledge in the worst of circumstances. The gameplay that you're going to see while I talk about all these sort of philosophical things is probably the best example of that you will ever see in Call of Duty. This is League Play CTF. We're in our placement games, but we're getting near the end, and I think these are silver/gold players. On top of that, they're also a team of subscribers. They recognized me and they recognized Oh Lord Oh. They were really excited before the match, and they told us they were going to show us up, so they're tryharding really hard here, extra hard in League Play. I'm playing with Honey Badger and one of Lord's subscribers. The DSU is the Shiz, I don't know, that's his name, but this is an extremely close match of Call of Duty, even though in the first round we're going to be down 0-3, and we're going to get put down so hard in this first round, and the gameplay is going to be so bad, and it's going to be so ugly, but it goes on for the full 16 minutes, overtime, double overtime, down to the draw. So many clutch moments in this game. I can't hype the game enough. This is one of the closest, most fun rounds of Call of Duty that I've played in a long time, and I thought that it was absolutely perfect for this topic. Now, the reason I want to do this is because there are a lot of problems in people's lives that come from a lack of self-knowledge, a lack of understanding yourself. People choose jobs they don't want, they take on projects they can't handle, they try to dress a certain way, try to fit in a certain crowd, try to do a certain thing, and even though it's something that they think they want, it's something that they want to be or aspire to, or something they project themselves onto, it doesn't match their true nature. Now, nature can change over time, it can change, it's a variable thing, but it's not a one-day flip-flop. It takes years to really erode at that core self and turn it into something different. So people have a tendency to pick, sometimes based on what they used to be and not what they are now, even though a lot of times it doesn't change that often in a life. Now, the point of this video is that you find yourself in the worst of circumstances, and a lot of people say, okay, well, I already know myself, and I'll ask you the question, who are you? I'm Drifter, blah blah blah, nice to meet you. Who are you? Most of you will introduce yourselves by your name. Oh, you'll say my name is David Reynolds or whatever. And like, no, that's your name. Who are you? And then the next most common answer is, oh, well, I'm the guy, I work at the meat packing plant and I do quality safety assurance. And like, no, that's your job. Who are you? Okay, I get it, Mr. Smarty Pants, philosophical questions, and a lot of times they'll try to define themselves by their friends or their family. I'm so-and-so's brother, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm like, oh great, you can reproduce and you're related to people. Well, so is everybody else. Who are you? Who is the individual being that I'm talking to? And at this point, one of the other common answers is, oh, I'm a body, I'm a brain, I'm an amalgamation of all these things, and that's not really what the answer is. The answer for that type of question is, who are you? Who can I count on? What kind of person are you? What's your personality? What's your goals? What's your aspirations? What's your desire? And the way that you find these things, or more specifically, the way you find what you want, how you go about solving problems, how reliable you are, what kind of person you are, you find these sort of things in the worst of circumstances. And going through these bad circumstances helps you understand who you are and what you'll be able to do better later in life. And the best method to find yourself, to find the true self, is to just go to the very end of everything. Sometimes that might mean the end of the money. There's some people that grow up really rich and they think that's all that life is, and they end up going broke and going poor, and they have amazing moments of epiphany, of self-discovery, of new knowledge and understanding that they never had before about how the rest of the world works, or about how privileged they were, or about what it means to sacrifice, who they really are. I know people that were once rich and they were stingy, they were buttholes and they didn't know it, and once they were broke, once it really clicked in their head on what it was like to have nothing, on what it actually meant to share something instead of to give to charity to look good, they were still, they turned into good people, they turned into better people for having that experience and being broken, so a lot of them never forget that. And you can do the same kind of thing with money. There are some people that grow up really broke and they absolutely hate the way that rich people act. They don't understand it, they can't get it, and then they get a lot of money and they understand that why rich people do those silly things that they do. But typically you find more understanding down at the negative end. Sometimes it's at the end of your friends. You don't know, sometimes you find yourself ostracized, turned against, betrayed, cheated on, something like that, and you're now the black sheep of the group, and you look, how do you define yourself without the group of people? And this is especially important for teenagers because as part of your sociological development at that age, you're most likely to define yourself as part of a core group of people, probably between the size of 3 to maybe 8 to 10 people, And this is just kind of how teenagers work. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There's plenty of adults that do this, and that's just kind of how it goes. Or sometimes at the end of your family. A lot of people are very close with their family. They're very tight-knit, and, you know, they belong. My family, I'm not quite as tight-knit because mine's very fractured. But when their family falls apart, when they find out that so-and-so doesn't love them, when their dad beats them, and these are bad things, or they have to leave home and set out on their own or something like that, they have a moment of self-discovery that they weren't who they think they are. They can no longer relate in the way, so they have to redefine their life. And sometimes you find these moments at the absolute end of life itself. Some people, these are more often like a car crash, a near-death experience, war stories, war problems, being attacked, being mugged, being threatened with your life, nearly escaping an accident. You, in that split moment, all of these other things that I previously mentioned, they just get washed away, and there's nothing left but the absolute true self, the person that's left behind. And that's a way to get to know yourself. When you're in these absolutely desperate circumstances, when there's no recourse, nothing left, that's when your true colors will always show. Because when people are down to no options, when there's nothing left, nothing to do, they don't have time for pretense, they don't have time for ideals or projections. They actually truly become their true selves. You can use this to learn about other people, but what I'm talking about today is learning about yourself. And I've talked a lot, but I'm going to give you some personal examples. And one of the ways that I learned my work ethic was not going through high school. It was not working in college to do papers on time, because these were things that I did anyway, that I always did, that I had to do, that there were no, you know, it was just, you were compelled, you must get good grades, blah, blah, blah. But I had to pay for my wedding, and I agreed to get married to my wife, who I'm still married to, and I love her to death. And she wanted a big fancy Chinese wedding at, you know, to show her relatives, to have a good time, because that's part of their culture. That's what they do. They do the 9-course meal and a lot of gifts and that sort of thing. It was going to be very expensive. We were both in college. This is not money that we had at all. It was going to be totally impossible to pay for this wedding, with the exception of one thing. My one hobby slash jobby at the time was YouTube, but it was not making nearly enough money to pay for a wedding. But I did realize it was a scalable thing. More videos equals more money. It was a pretty simple equation. I don't get a flat rate. It's based on views. And I had about 4 or 5 months, and I knew the money came in late, so it would only really be like 1 or 2 months of payment. So I got to work immediately. I worked day and night all the time, forgoing social relationships, which at this point in life I kind of regret, but I ended up making a ton of money in a very short period of time, a bunch of videos, and I just kind of pulled it right out of my butt. Some people say the joke, oh, I'm on the YouTube grind, and I'm on the Twitter grind. I was really on the grind, just like cranking it out, even sometimes at the expense of spending time with my wife, who it was all for, and that's how work goes sometimes. But what was different about this was that it was the only option. There was no getting a job at McDonald's and paying for this. There was no part-time college job that would ever get, earn the kind of money that I needed to give my wife the wedding that she wanted, and it was voluntary. It wasn't compulsory. So it was sort of learning how to make myself work at my own pace while I was desperate, and I really learned what I was capable of, work ethic, and I learned what work ethics meant. Another example I'll give you is based more of an intelligence test, like how smart are you when you have to be, and this was my Physics 2 test in college, and this is a calculus-based Physics 2, which in most college curriculums, depending how they split it up, they're going to be doing electricity and magnetism, which for me as a mechanical person, that's like black magic. That's really complicated stuff. It's invisible fields and waves and vectors and things that you can't see. And what I had to do on this particular test is the professor threw kind of a curveball at us and gave us this object that would have been normal, but we had this one special exception or whatever, and my formulas didn't quite work because of that, and I didn't know exactly what to do. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but the test was supposed to be really hard. It was supposed to fail a percentage of people, and in my desperation, I broke down the calculus, I got my basic laws out, and went all the way through this proof on the side of the paper, and derived my own equation to fit this new object to make it work, and I actually got my test back. I actually got that one right. I was really proud of myself that I knew enough to where if I absolutely had to, if the easy way didn't work, I could sit down a pencil and paper and start out with like I forget my basic electric and magnetic old formulas, the calculus ones, and derive all the way through for a new object. So I realized that you really can learn a lot and apply it, and that's the pretty much the definition of intelligence, when you have to. Or another one, personality-wise, I can't give too much information, but when you get betrayed, when somebody really betrays your trust, betrays your feelings, puts you in a bad spot, this can be friend, family, lover, whatever, it's a test of your personality. I've had to do this. I'm sure a lot of you had to do this. You'll get to know whether you are truly, a lot of people like to think nice of themselves, but you'll learn if you're vindictive, if you're forgetful, if you're forgiving, if you're spiteful, all those sort of things. And sometimes at the very end of your life, just like the other example, I have not been in combat. I have been shot at by a drunk person that was very far away, so it wasn't quite that frightening. But I've had times where I thought I was going to die at the Salton Sea. I thought I was going to choke to death, and I could have accepted it. I could have been calm about it, but instead I chose to fight all the way to the bitter end. We're going to the hospital now. We're duking this out. There have been all kinds of quick dodges in bad situations just like this right here. I scored that flag like a second before this ended, and we're going to overtime, where you absolutely have to do and die when the semi-truck in front of you in the road is spinning out, when it's throwing its contents everywhere, and if you don't dodge every single one of those barrels, you and everybody else in the car is going to die, and you have to do it. You learn exactly what you're capable of. You learn what your motivations are, and for me it was simple. I wanted to take care of other people. I wasn't going to let anybody die on my dime, and if I was going to hit those damn things, it was going to be with my side of the vehicle, and that's how it goes. In these sort of terrible scenarios, in these last-ditch efforts, you find the core of yourself, what you're really made of, what you are, and it's not changing anytime. So it might be like 10 years or terrible experience or something, you'll be a different person, but you find that core, and a lot of these qualities that I've mentioned have a definite good and bad component, but there's some neutral ones. Some of the good and bad ones will say, you can generally define people quitters and fighters. Some people, when the tough gets going, they quit, they give up, they just don't do it. They clam up and sit at home and watch TV until whatever problem it is gets worse. Or when things get scary, they just curl into a little ball and cry, and we're not fighting, we're not doing anything about it, we're done. That's definitely, I would call, a negative quality versus the people that are going to work hard, they're going to duke out, they're going to go all the way through, they're going to try to save themselves, they're going to take care of others. In the scarier situations, there's control and fear. I generally respect people that have control over themselves more than those that panic and get all frightful and do things. But sometimes there's a reason to be afraid, and there's some more neutral qualities, like when it comes to a situation where you're desperate and when something is due and it has to be done. Some people work very, very hard, and some people work very, very smart. Neither one of these is bad at all. Some people are very meticulous about their work. They'll go through trial and error time and time again. That's more like the hard work way, and they will get it done, and they will eliminate all other options, and it'll be right. Some people are geniuses or prone to ingenuity sometimes, which is a much funnier thing. And they can work smarter about the problem and not have to do the trial and error and still have to get it right. And that's a different kind of skill. It's a very special skill. And neither one of those are good. Those are both good qualities. And when it comes to the relationship thing, are you a vengeful person or do you forgive and forget? There are definitely, good qualities depending on your moral system being revenge. There are some moral systems that people have or religions have that encourage revenge, or they encourage not forgetting. The biblical one be like, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, that sort of thing. Even though it said in other places, you've got forgive and forget. So there's some give and take on both of those to know who you are, what you are, and that sort of thing. Other sort of things, some people are socially reliant and some people are self-reliant. Some people, when the shit hits the wall, when everything's really the fan and the balls to the wall, that sort of thing. I got my analogies there, metaphors, whatever, screwed up. We did capture here. We're going into the final round, and it's going to get super, super close. Trust me. Some people rely on others. Some people call on their social network. Some people want friends. Some people want family. Some people outsource. They crowdsource. They ask for help, and they get it. Sometimes they don't, just kind of depending on the person that they are. And that's a good thing in a lot of situations. Sometimes it's not. Other people choose to be self-reliant. Some people are... Some people want to solve this problem myself. It's my problem. I deal with it. I'm not going to drag my friends into it. I'm not going to drag my family into it. That's usually a tougher path. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it works well. Sometimes it doesn't. Neither one of those are really perfect. And then there's internal and external blame, like when something goes wrong. Not in these quick, reaction situations, though aspects of that will carry over. Some people blame the external environment. Well, the economy was crappy. Well, this other person did this thing I didn't expect them to. Well, I can't control the iceberg falling at me, blah, blah, blah. And then some people have an internal blame, like, well, I knew the economy was changing. I should have changed my job. I knew so-and-so was unpredictable. I could have prepared for this. I knew that, hiking in the Himalayas was dumb and that ice shifts sometimes. This is my fault. And depending on which one of those sort of blame systems that you have on who's responsible or why this is happening, some people actually have a none, some people have a very neutral, like karmatic view of the universe or whatever, it'll determine who you are and how you react to different situations and help you define yourself. So at the end of this, I want you to remember that being down is not a bad thing, like being, pushed down into the worst of situations, because I know a lot of people, not in the greatest of situations. Some people are good, some people are bad, some are up and down, but it's not the end of the world, and it's not about where you are now, but about where you're going. The best way, and I did this in a different commentary, the best way to define your life is not about what you have done or what you are doing, but what you're going to do next. You always want to be the person that's going for the next thing, so that when you are down, when you are out, when you are in these desperate situations, remember that this is just sort of a test of your mettle. This is a place of self-discovery. This is where you're going to learn who you really are, what you're really capable of, what you like, what you don't, how you solve problems, how you see problems, and how you feel about others. And this doesn't have to be a good thing. This can be a learning experience. This can be an improving experience. Like myself right here, I cannot believe that this guy doesn't die as many times as I shoot him, and then he turns and kills me with the Cap 45, and I am desperate, but I keep it cool, I keep it calm, I keep it collective. I tell people where he's going, what he's doing, how to kill him, that sort of thing. I am personally disgusted in myself at the moment for not killing him, but I do have a good, I will say, social network here, and they mop up for me. They help take care of it. Actually, I think I don't. Yeah, I go down here for the cutoff. That was sort of a more negative thing, like I didn't trust them to do it, so I went for the last ditch, like I will stop them on the flag if I have to, but my man DSU is the shiz here. He's got it taken care of. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the commentary. I hope you learned something useful, and if you're in a bad situation, I hope you take it just a little bit lighter and use this time to learn about yourself. If you enjoyed this commentary, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.